I'm Tommy Vietor.
I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And today we're going to talk about burning Teslas, the JFK files, invading Canada, and Gavin Newsom's podcast.
Just another week in politics.
Liberal Tears is brought to you by Lumen. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
Tommy, let's listen to Elon reacting to these fires happening at Tesla dealerships.
I woke up this morning and saw that Teslas were put ablaze in one of your dealerships in Vegas.
I mean, it's really come as quite a shock to me that there's this level of really hatred and violence from the left. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. Turns out when you take away people's, the money they're receiving fraudulently, they get very upset. And they basically want to kill me because I'm stopping their fraud. And they want to hurt Tesla because we're stopping this terrible waste and corruption in the government.
So, Brian, I'm old enough to remember when Teslas were just lighting on fire on their own on the highway.
Didn't need any help from the libs?
No help from the libs. My recommendation to people who want to boycott Tesla is boycott Tesla. But don't vandalize things. Don't light things on fire. I don't know that's not helping.
The irony of this, though, is that the Republican Party has rediscovered its disdain for violence. But this comes only after the guy who Elon Musk helped get into office had incited an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Like that, it was all crickets from these Republicans then when people were bludgeoning police officers, bashing in windows at the Capitol and smearing shit on their walls.
Remember when we were machine gunning Bud Light cans? Kid Rock was like...
Violence is fine when it happens at the hands of Republicans. But if Democrats, if one single Democrat, because that's what was being reported, that it was one guy who did this, if one guy decides to light Teslas on fire, then all of a sudden the entire left is responsible for the actions of that one person.
Right. And Republicans love to boycott products they don't like. If anything is woke or DEI or blah, blah, blah thing they whine about.
Still not drinking my Starbucks Christmas cup.
But I actually...
Unless Jesus himself is on it.
I really now believe, Democrats, we should be boycotting Teslas. Don't buy a Tesla. Elon Musk's a terrible person. Why would we put money in this pocket or enable this administration?
Yeah. And I think the irony of all of this too is, Elon's whole tack here is, and he says in that Hannity interview, I've never done anything harmful. I've only been productive. Everything that Elon has done since he's been in government, when Republicans first took control of the government and Elon really settled into his role as shadow president, the first move that he made was blocking a spending bill back in December of 2024. And so that bill was dead. The new bill that replaced it eliminated pediatric cancer research funding. I don't see who that helps. I don't see how that's productive. Moving forward, I mean, we've seen him gut USAID, which for only 0.5% of the budget it delivers clean food and clean water and HIV prevention to the most impoverished people who need it. That's not productive. That is only harmful. You look at the ways in which he has, between him and Trump, have moved into gutting Medicaid and food stamps. I mean, all one after the next. You have so many examples of him actually taking actions that are in fact not productive, that are in fact harmful. And yet he continues on with this tack that everything he's doing is, that he's just some innocent bystander amid all of the anger that's directed toward him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Doge is destroying the government. They're doing real harm. People are dying in places like South Sudan, but also, there's going to be more disease, more tuberculosis ravaging across the planet. So Elon's doing real harm, but also these guys always act like they're the victims because people talk about it or complain about them on Twitter. Boo-hoo-hoo, you're the richest man in the world. Right. You own the platform. You can ban us if we complain about you.
And he pretty much does.
Yeah, so quit fucking whining. Okay, Brian, speaking of terrible things happening in cars, the Trump administration released the JFK files.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years.
So this week, the Trump administration released 64,000 pages of documents related to the Kennedy assassination. Jack Schlossberg says the Kennedy family got no heads up on this, which is pretty shitty, if you ask me. So reporters are still going through these documents and analyzing them, but so far it seems like most of these redactions were just about protecting CIA sources and methods. It's like names of agents were blacked out, source names were blacked out, stuff about intel collection on U.S. allies, locations of CIA stations, like all the things you would expect to be redacted. Also, it sounds like the Trump people just dumped these files out. There's no organization. It's like photocopies of photocopies. So you'll be shocked to learn it was a mess here, Brian. But I think like bigger picture, what this reminds me of is that these Trump fans and these like manosphere podcast hosts, they love the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
They don't really care about the truth.
Right,
it's very similar to the Epstein documents.
It's almost worse to actually release the documents, because then you poke a hole in whatever reality they're trying to concoct for themselves. But to your exact point, I mean, this is all well and good. Show me the Epstein documents. Like, if you really, one conspiracy theory rabbit hole that I'm perfectly content to jump down is the Epstein stuff, and that is the one thing that the Trump administration is staying conspicuously away from, and I wonder why.
Yeah, there was this weird influencer event at the White House the other day where Pam Bondi handed out binders that said Epstein files to a bunch of like MAGA TikTokers. There was nothing in the files. It was like all for show. Laura Loomer freaked out about it. But you get to an important point, which is like these guys, like they love the conspiracy. At the end of the day, the MAGA types hope that if there are Epstein files, and by the way, there's no evidence that they exist. Like a lot of Epstein's records and documents have been released as parts of court cases or found by journalists. So a lot of this is out there. But what these guys, these MAGA types, are hoping is that there's some silver bullet like that goes after Bill Clinton. They don't seem to care about the fact that Donald Trump was really good friends with Jeffrey Epstein.
If they saw even a modicum of what already exists between Trump and Epstein of some prominent Democrat, they would lose their minds. They would lose their mind at the prospect of seeing something that, if they just looked at what Donald Trump has photographic evidence of, that would be enough already for them to melt down.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, it's not just that Trump was very close to Jeffrey Epstein. His Secretary of Labor in the first administration was a guy named Alex Acosta, who gave the original sweetheart deal to Jeffrey Epstein in Florida in the early 2000s to let him out of prison and let him to continue to be a predator on young girls.
Yeah. All of this seems to be conveniently discarded by the very people who are so convinced that the only allegiances or links Epstein has are to Democrats.
Moon landing. Where is it?
Show me the pictures.
Release the secret files about the shadowy billionaire actually running the government. Oh, wait. He's on TV every day and tweeting.
Tommy, there's no better breeding ground for these conspiracy theories than Fox News itself. And the latest scandal to emerge on Fox News, daily scandal to emerge on Fox News, is Trump litigating the question of whether or not Canada is going to be forced to be the 51st state.
Any one of
you're tougher with Canada than you are with some of our biggest adversaries.
Only because it's meant to be our 51st state. And
okay, but
but listen to this for a second.
We need their territory. They have territorial advantage. We're not going to let them get close to China.
Look, I deal with every country, indirectly or directly. One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada.
What Trump is doing with these tariffs is going to destroy the Canadian economy. Like, thousands of people are going to be out of work. It's going to hurt businesses. It's going to hurt farmers. It's like, and the Canadians are taking it deadly serious. It's not just that they're like booing the national anthem. I mean, you've got Justin Trudeau, the former prime minister, talking about how he believes that the tariffs are the beginning of a process to destroy the Canadian economy that would allow annexation.
Right. That would put them in such a vulnerable position that they would have no choice but to recognize that, okay, the only way to come out of this is if we succumb to to these demands by Trump to be annexed as the 51st state.
Yeah. Now, the hard part about that annexation process, if you look at a map, Canada's got the high ground. They're above us. You know what I mean?
Oh.
It's like America's hat.
Oh.
We don't have to.
Because you don't have to leave it in.
You don't have to include that.
This has to stay in. What's worth noting too is that let's skip ahead 100 steps and say that Canada did become the 51st state. This is a country that has grown accustomed to universal health care, gun control, and environmental regulations.
And French-speaking in some parts.
And French-speaking, all things that Republicans hate. How does Donald Trump and the Republican Party think that these people are going to vote? This may be the one thing that would actually save the United States from the brink of fascism.
It's so insulting. Like, Canada's been one of our closest allies for decades. They fought with us in wars like in Iraq and Afghanistan. That we have close trade relationship. This is one of the dumbest, most obnoxious things he is doing, and there's a long list there. But you're right. I mean, what Trump is doing by attacking Canada over and over again is resuscitating the Liberal Party in Canada, Trudeau's party. before this bullshit started happening, the conservatives in Canada were winning in polls by like 20 points, 25 points. Now they're basically break even. So Trump is harming his closest political allies in Canada by repeatedly threatening to destroy their economy and then invade them.
And by the way, we've seen that same process play itself out in Germany when Elon Musk went all in for the AfD. Didn't help their poll numbers at all. And in fact, it's allowing the more liberal parties to band together against them.
Yeah.
So
worth noting that even Laura Ingraham is pushing back on this idea.
Yeah, when you've lost Laura Ingraham, who will jump on board with any conspiracy theory, any talking point,
she's good to go.
And even she's like, not so sure.
Liberal Tears is brought to you by Lumen. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fat or carbs. Then, Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time, and Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. So a ton of people here at Crooked Media are using the Lumen. They love it. A lot of them use their Lumen in the morning. Some of them use it before or after a workout to just get a sense of how it went. It's just another really interesting piece of data that you can incorporate into your daily routine to have a better handle on what you're eating, how you're processing it, and your health generally. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/rank to get 20% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/rank for 20% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Speaking of finding common ground with crazy people like Laura Ingraham, Gavin Newsom has a podcast. Let's watch a clip.
All right, so let's go back to Democrats being totally incompetent, incapable of spending 30, let alone 45 to an hour having a conversation broadly on podcasts.
I said you're becoming the exception.
But so what? I mean, are the Democrats you do forget literally any Democrats you admire out there right now? I mean, even beyond just the podcast thing, that you look and say, Jesus, there's hope.
I used to have respect for Bernie on his anti-war stance, and now he's a complete neocon.
I was going to ask you about Bernie.
He's a complete neocon now, so he's not there. Democrats I respect. Bobby Kennedy type? I respect. Tulsi Gabbard.
Why are you laughing? Why are you smiling?
Because they're on our team now because you guys kicked out your best people.
Obviously, Tommy, the concern here with this whole podcast is as he's brought on more and more right-wing guests that he's especially effusive and deferential to these people. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. And the reason that I bring this up is because I've viewed Gavin Newsom's strength up to this point as the fact that he is willing to get into these uncomfortable spaces and fight back and stand on business, right? Yep. And that's a major problem in the Democratic Party, that we're viewed as weak, and so we have so few fighters. The ones that we do, you would presume that those folks would be carrying the flag as we head toward 2026, 2028, and be the ones to go into these spaces and reclaim a lot of what we felt was lost ground. And yet the fact that in the opportunities that he's had to actually do that, we have seen a lot of him giving up ground, not standing up for things that are very obvious, like this notion, I believe it was during the Steve Bannon episode, that the 2020 election was stolen. Mm-hmm. So curious what your thoughts are on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I like that Gavin Newsom is willing to go on Fox News and mix it up with Sean Hannity and debate Ron DeSantis. For a while, I thought Democrats shouldn't go on Fox. I was totally wrong, and I do think we need to be in places where there are adversarial conversations like that, talking with people who disagree with us. I don't have a problem, in theory, with Gavin inviting on Charlie Kirk or Steve Bannon.
Totally.
Frankly, I've wanted to interview Steve Bannon, but I do think the execution needs some work. He has done too much. Some of the questions are a little too credulous. With Charlie Kirk, I think, Charlie Kirk's built a big, powerful organization in TPUSA, but he did it with a lot of right-wing donor money, and I think that should have been part of the conversation. I think with Steve Bannon's a very smart guy, but he's a very radical, right-wing, dangerous guy, and I think you need to not only push back on him, but bring some questions and some research to the table to push him on his views and his noxious views. If Gavin Newsom wanted to, in that Charlie Kirk interview, articulate a new position on trans sports, that's his right to do so. But I think in concert with that, there needed to be more of a conversation about how Republicans are cynically using attacks on trans people in the most cruel, vicious, disproportionate way possible. He got some of that in there, but I think it could have used some more.
I think what's worth noting too is what both parties wanted to come out of this thing with. For Gavin Newsom, I think it was that he can probably seem more palatable, kind of soften the edges of like the radical California liberal thing. But for Charlie Kirk, he went in knowing full well that he wanted moments that he could then use to really promote himself and destroy Newsom and kind of eliminate any advantage that Newsom might have gained by virtue of the conversation. And you saw that in the way that really the day after, Charlie Kirk spent the entire day posting clips about how he humiliated Newsom, how he destroyed Newsom, how Newsom had like a, this terrible moment, that terrible moment. And it really goes to, I think, what both sides wanted to take out of it. But ultimately, these guys are acting in bad faith. They're showing you, in retrospect, in Newsom's case, that they're acting in bad faith. And so that's what you should expect when you're engaging with these people. The fact that he went in thinking that it was going to be a productive exchange of ideas and that Charlie Kirk or Steve Bannon are going to be operating in good faith goes to show that there is a fundamental misunderstanding of the media environment, at least on the right.
Yeah, and I think you got to have a plan. Like, what do you want to get out of this interview? You're not Charlie Rose. We're not going to ask a question and sit back and just kind of hear about someone's bio. Or, I mean, you could do that. I just don't think it's going to be interesting or particularly productive. And let's be honest, like you and I both interview a lot of people. It's really hard to fact check them in real time, because you need to be listening to what they're saying, processing it, thinking of the correct response, interrupting. Like, if you constantly fact check someone, it's just a terrible conversation. So I think people on the internet who kind of like fly spec TV hosts for not fact checking enough, like, you don't totally understand how hard it is to do in real time. That said, you got to mix it up. Yeah. Like, put more of your personality and your views into these conversations, make them more interesting and an exchange and more dynamic. Like, not because my like precious liberal ears can't hear what Steve Bannon or Charlie Kirk has to say. It's because otherwise the end result's kind of boring.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so it turns out Brian killed JFK. But it was fun talking to you about it.
Yeah. I mean, got to do what I got to do. Am I right?
Great talking to you, buddy. Talk to you guys soon.